We're going to be using some animation techniques today. We're going to be looking at classic tweens, and we're going to also be looking at parenting. I'll explain that a little bit more when we get into it. But firstly, last video I forgot to do the tail. So if you haven't done the tail, it's really easy. I'll run through it in a second. If you have done the tail, then you can skip to this point in the video. Okay, so the tail, let me just put myself on the tail. I'm just going to go drop a layer down underneath my ear and say tail. Just drop that down there. And the tail's simple. I'm going to grab my pen tool. I'm going to chuck it in here. Actually, I'm going to nest it with that. I'm going to get my eyedropper and grab the pink color of the nose and my pen tool. And basically all we're doing is clicking once to create an anchor point, and then probably you just go straight down and click and hold this next time. So click and hold your mouse button and then click and hold again. And you won't see much because our stroke size is really small. But if we go to our properties panel, just up the stroke size to about, wow, why can't I see anything? Ah, why is it black? Oh, right, okay. So I need to make my stroke color pink. So I'm going to click on the stroke color. My bad. Click on the eyedropper on the nose there, and then go to my properties panel. Make this bigger. I reckon about 5. Looks good. And then I can get my sub-select tool, A, or the white select tool. I can go in and just sort of play around with how curly it is. I can get the anchor points and sort of twist it and adjust it to whatever I think. But I'm not going to spend too much time doing that. So there's my tail done. Okay, now my tail's done. I'm going to get rid of my reference image if you've already done that, because we don't need it anymore. So click on and make sure that there's nothing else in there too. So just click the eyeball a couple of to make sure you haven't got a stray object in there. Click delete for that layer. And now what we need to do is create symbols out of all of our objects that we've made. And the easiest way to do this is to go right to the top of your list in your layers, and then right click, just click on it and you'll see that it selects in here. Actually, we might need to get the normal selection tool back. Click on it again, and then you'll see that that's selected. That's the symbol we want to make, is the right arm. And then you can do it by right clicking and going convert to symbol. But the shortcut for this, as you can see, is F8. So we're going to use that. Make sure this says graphic. And we won't worry about naming this. It is handy to name them if we're going to make projects that I might take that specific symbol. Like you have a library full of symbols later on, but for the purpose of this, we're just going to leave it defaulted so it's a bit quicker. So I'm just going to go OK, and now you'll see that that is a symbol. I'm going to click down on my right leg layer, and you'll notice that this is selected now. So F8. OK. So I'm just going to go through my list and convert all of these to symbols. So I'm left clicking on a layer, hitting F8 and hitting OK. And this should default to graphic if you've done it once. The next thing we need to do is let's go to the top of our list again and go to the right arm. We want to grab the free transform tool, and we want to move our anchor points. So when we're animating, how is our joint going to work? So if I went to rotate this right now, you'll see that it rotates around about the elbow. That's not what we want. There's a little white dot here, And if we move that down to, say, the base, then we can see that's a much better point for animating for where that joint is. So there's a few different parts of the body. So right leg, we're going to move that down to the base here. And if you're unsure if it's in a good spot, just test it and you can sort of rotate it and see how it feels. We want to do the, going down my list here, we want to do the back left arm, about there, the back left leg. Some of these are already in okay spots. And we want to do the ears as well. So the ears, we might want to rotate these. So let's put that there and see what that looks like. Yep, that's good. The left ear. And finally the tail. So you can click on them just in your project and it should select them. Cool. Now what we want to do is parent all of these objects. I'll explain parenting through this here. This is something that's been parented. Excuse my crappy drawing. I've done an upper leg, a lower leg, and a shoe. I could have put more detail into it, but I couldn't be bothered for the sake of this. But I've got these things parented, and this is the parenting tab, and you can toggle that by doing this. But anyway, it's telling me that my upper leg is the parent to the lower leg, which is the parent to the foot. So if I move my upper leg, everything else comes with it. If I move my lower leg, the foot only comes with it because it is the parent of the foot. And then if I move my foot, obviously nothing else moves. This can be really handy. Let me just copy this. Paste. Is it going to be parented? Let me just see. No, it's not. Okay, cool. So this is an example. If I was animating this leg and I wanted to start from prone position, I would have to grab my upper leg and then I'd have to grab my lower leg and then I'd have to grab my foot and create a keyframe there. And then if, let's say I wanted him to swing up his knee, I would have to grab his upper leg, I'd grab the foot, the lower leg, grab the foot. I'm moving these things all the time. But with this, all I need to do, so that's all parented to that. Okay. So it's a lot easier to animate if things are parented. So if I want to swing his knee up, I just go up, up, down, done. So much easier if everything sort of stays connected. Anyway, that's parenting. So if I go back to here, how we parent everything is there's a little button here that says show parenting view, and it gives us this tab here. And what I'm going to do at this parenting is not going to be that complicated because we're just going to parent everything to the torso. So every time we move the torso, everything else will come with it. Or every time we rotate the torso, everything else will rotate with it. So this is the parent layer for us. And there's a couple of ways you can do it. I can click and drag everything onto that layer. So if you click and drag from here, so hold there, click and drag down, or if you click it and then you just tell each layer, it's probably easier to do it this way. Just click each one of these and say body. So you've got all your parent layers here that it could be, and you're just looking for body every time. So do that with every single layer except for the body, of course. And have a look through your layers and just make sure that all of these little lines, they should all have a line coming off the layer in towards the body layer. So you'll see if I grab my body and I move it, my whole pig comes with it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my view and just fit in window. So there's my canvas. I'm going to get my pig into a position, so probably about there. What my thinking is, we're going to have the pig pop up out of the bottom of the screen, and the gravity is going to take hold, and then the pig's going to come back down. So what I want to do is select everything, or just, you can even just select the body. We're going to create a keyframe, so I'm thinking at about the 2-second mark. So down here on the timeline, look for where it says 2 seconds, and this might be in a different spot for everybody else because it might be zoomed in. Here's the zoomer up here, it might be zoomed out, but what we're going to look at is, you probably want it about there for this. That's a good zoom level. So 60 frames. We're going to click and drag, so go, make sure you scroll right to the top of your layers, click and drag, let's say 60, all the way down to the bottom. So you should have a selected line all the way through your layers there. Right click on that selected line and go insert keyframe. Cool. Now we've got 2 seconds of doing nothing at the moment. Grab your timeline slider here and put it right on the first frame. Click on your body and make sure you don't click on these bits because you'll go to move it. So click on the body, drag it down. You're going to need to zoom out, so control scroll backwards. So we want to zoom out and make our pig start there and end there. So at the moment we've got 2 frames and we're going to tween them. And what tweening is when you give a program like Adobe Animate 2 positions, it tries to work out all of the in-between frames. So to do that, you need to go right to the top of your layers, and we need to select, doesn't matter how many you select, just in between these 2 keyframes somewhere, select all a certain amount of frames, doesn't matter how many, as long as it's at least 1, and then go create classic tween. Now you will see that Animate has gone, okay, so you want to start here and you want to end there. If you hit play, lovely. Now I don't think that that's fast enough, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my select tool. I'd rather this play at a higher frame rate because it needs to be sort of smooth, so I'm going to click on my stage, click on my properties panel and change this to 60 frames a second. So it's going to play a little bit faster. Oh, did it even do it? Did it even change? I feel like it didn't even change. Let me hit Control Enter. That's better. Cool, and we've lost the top of our ear for some reason in that, but anyway. Okay, so you'll notice that's not looking that great, so I'm going to just preview that again. It doesn't really look like gravity's taking control there, so what we're going to do is select all, like we did when we added our classic tween. We're going to select a portion of all of this in between section, and sorry, don't right click it, muffed it, select it all, and then we're going to go to our properties panel, and this will say there's a tweening property, and we want to change this classic ease to an ease out. So what this does is, this is just playing consistently, playing that motion, but if we ease it out, then it'll play the frames faster to start with, but then it'll start to slow down the rate of those frames. I'm going to put it on, let's go cubic. And the thing is here, you have to double click to apply that. So if I double click on it, done, we're applied. Let's have a look again. Preview. There we go. So that's, see how it starts really fast and then it's kind of slow. I'm really interested to see what's going on with my ear there. Like it's disappeared at the start anyway. I'm sure I'll figure that out soon. that's our pose that we're happy with at the top of the jump or being thrown. I'm really happy with that pose. But at the start, maybe we want to change a few little bits and pieces. So maybe we grab an ear. Let's grab the free transform tool and zoom in a bit. I'm just going to pull that down a bit because gravity is pulling down on the ears. Let's say the same thing about these arms and legs. Can actually just move that a little bit. If you need to move, arrow keys is always good. There we go. And the tail, maybe we can do a little bit of squash and stretch with the tail. It's not letting me select the tail. There we go. So maybe gravity's sort of pulling the tail a little bit like that. So the velocity should change and the shape of the tail should also change as we go up. Yep. Cool. And that's how easy tweening is. The tail's kind of subtle, but there is some movement there. I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, now we're going to reverse it, and gravity's going to take hold and pull the pig down. And what I want to do is kind of make it go a little bit quicker on the way down, because I want the pig's going to have a little bit of a shocked face when he gets up to the top and go, oh, and then drop down. So what have we got here? 60 frames going up. So let's say, so another 60 would be 120, but we want it to be faster. So let's maybe go to the frame 100, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter exactly where you put it. You can experiment with it, or you can put it. It doesn't matter if you put it in frame 101. You'll get the idea. So I'm going to select all of those frames in my layer. I'm going to right click and insert a keyframe. And then I'm going to drag everything down. So again, we need to tell Adobe that we want to create the in-between frames. So click and drag, right click, create classic tween. And there you go. It doesn't have that ease, so it just sort of drops straight down. So we want to create that ease, so you need to select all of them. Properties, classic. And it'll be ease in this time because you want it to play slower, and as gravity starts to pull, it gets quicker and quicker. So like that, and let's have a look, see what the motion's like there. That's cool. I'm happy with that. All right, let's make some changes. So what did I want to do? Actually, I like the thought of just grabbing the body on the very first frame and maybe getting my free transform tool. I'm going to zoom in a bit and grab the actual body. And let's like rotate it a little bit. So it'll sort of come in on the angle and rotate up. And then the same as we come back down, I'm going to rotate it a bit more so momentum's going that way. We'll see what that looks like. Control Enter is the shortcut for preview. Yeah, it'll do. Okay, so now we want to get the old shocked face, or you can tweak. No, before we do the shock face, let's do the arms and the tail. So maybe the tail like starts to rotate up, and a little bit of squash and stretch involved. Maybe the leg wants to go in this direction as well. and the arms can come back down. And maybe the ears kind of, let's squash and stretch them a little bit. Try and make them skinnier. This isn't the best. There we go, skinnier. As gravity starts to pull. And remember, when we make things skinnier, we need to make them longer as well. There we go. And I'm gonna write, like, these are gonna be pretty much straight up now. Huh. Actually, that kind of works. Whoa. So, at the top of his, the top of the pig's throw, I'm going to change the eyes. So, where's left eye, right eye? Left eyeball. Zoom in a bit. Put it on your timeline though, so a little bit past this keyframe at 60. And we're gonna, let's even do the second frame after it, and right click, insert a keyframe. And what we want to do is we want the pig to have a real surprised look. So we're gonna make his eyeballs sort of open up. That's probably a bit too much. Oh well, it'll do. And then we want to do the same with the right eyeball. So 2 frames along, insert keyframe. And we can move these with the arrow keys if you really want to. So you'll see if I preview that, his eyes get really big, and we also want his mouth to change. So, mouth layer. I'm going to right click there, and I'm going to insert a insert a blank keyframe. So what that's done is Adobe down here in the timeline is telling us that ... I don't know what to do because there's no frame here between this one and that one. So you've got to put a frame in. We need a fill color, and I'm just going to grab, it's just going to be gray with no stroke. Oops, I'm going to grab the oval tool. Click on that layer again. There we go. That's a bit more of a surprised looking pig. But, oh no, that works. There we go. So see, in those 2 frames from 60, there is no classic tween because Adobe doesn't know how to turn this shape into this shape, but that's okay. It just switches it like as if it's frame by frame, and that'll work. So if I go to, we've got a nice little pig animation. We could go in and we could tweak things if you want to have a bit of a play, by all means. But yeah, the purpose of this was to show you parenting and classic tweening, and we've done that, so good job. Okay, so that little white dot's really bugging me. This, if you look at the top of this right ear, it's sort of, it's not a dot, it's like a line that goes over the ear. It doesn't look very good at all. I had a bit of a play around with it, and I've tried to fix it, and you can see in this preview window that white line doesn't appear on the ear at all. I think it's just a rendering issue with Adobe Animate. So when I test the movie, it struggles to keep up, and I notice it only happens when I have an ease. So if I remove that ease, and remember, always double click on this, because I always click it and then I don't double click it and I think that it's applied, so I've just double clicked it. And so with no ease, it obviously has no trouble rendering, but that's not the effect that I want because my ear's going real slow. So I want to keep that ease there. So I'm just going to put that back. Ease out cubic. Just test it one more time, just in case it magically fixes itself. And you can see that little line's back on the right ear, or the pig's left ear. So don't worry too much about it. When we render out the video, it's fine, and this is a good opportunity to teach you how to render out a video. So if I go File, Export, and there's a few different options here, but for this purpose we're going to export video media. So for this purpose we're going to export it as an MP4, so we need this to say format H.264, and basically we put down here the location that we want to save it to, and then export. And here I've done it just earlier, and here's my animation, and you can see that the ear plays normally. So thanks guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you in the next one.